to Zoom. It'll be... Okay. Starting. Got it? Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for coming. Can you guys hear me? All right. Just want to make sure. Before I get started though, my name is Rick DeVera. I wanted to at least have my Tenable team introduce themselves. So if you mind standing up, just introduce yourself. Go ahead.
So Rob Hernandez, local territory manager, live in Wake Forest, been in Tenable about a year.
Jim Riley, for the security engineers for Southeast US. 6 years.
He's the boss man. Again, my name is Rick DeVera. I've been with Tenable for close to 2 years. I've been and by the way, if you guys can't see me in the back, I am standing up. I just let you know. So, and if I sit down, you really wouldn't see me.
So you're not mute yourself.
I'm not on mute.
No.
I'm unmuted. All right. I guess I'll just pick up the laptop and walk around. All right. So I've been in the cybersecurity industry for over 25 years, previously with another company, not a competitor to Tenable, but I moved over to Tenable because it's a really good security company. They're very focused on what they do. I came over as in working for Tenable, like just a little bit of the past. I worked, 25 years at one company doing, SE work all the way to architect work, directed an engineering team. And I worked previously, I worked at NASA. I was doing security work out there. Did a lot of programming, did a lot of interfacing between the Russian space station or the Russian Operations Center, Germany, and in the US. I was in the Air Force. I was a security officer in the Air Force. No, that's not a big deal. It's like they really didn't have any big computers. It's like, it's cool to have the title, right? It's like, I got the title, but it's not, I did that work out there. Because if you look at the computer systems that they have there, it's like way outdated. So it's like, it's not the coolest thing. But anyways, so I did that. And then again, I'm here and I'm just going to talk a little bit about CNAP and the solutions that we have. All right. Again, my main goal is to make this as interactive as possible. And if I don't have the answers, then I'll ask them. All right. So because I may not have the answer. I work for Tenable. I'm the security architect or solutions architect, principal solutions architect on the Alliance team. And I work directly, AWS is my partner. I do a lot of integration work. I kind of get focused on how to actually integrate the product, our cloud security product that we have today with AWS, really understand what AWS is doing from what they have today and then what they have in the roadmap. And so we can kind of work together. So we do a lot of development work together. And that's really my goal. If I get to at the end, I will show you, I'll kind of ask a few questions. Like you can ask questions, but then I want to ask questions too, because part of what I do is really understand what you guys really need in the product today and what you guys are doing in the cloud, right? Those things are really important. So again, I'm not even done with this slide. I have about 100 slides. I look back there and it's like, this is pizza. We have beer. It feels like we're on a window, right? To release something. So we're going to be here all night with 100 slides. That got trimmed down to like a few. But anyways, no, I'm not going to really kill you on slide. Well, this is in the way. I have a QR code. So a lot of people ask me if I bring business cards. No, I don't. Just because I just don't want to carry the business cards around. I could usually get lost. But you can do my QR code. It doesn't go to my LinkedIn. It just goes, here's the data. If it goes to LinkedIn, I'll forget all about you. So I won't really know. So let's just kind of dive in. So we have a cloud security solution, which is Tenable Cloud Security. All right. You guys pretty much known us as Tenable Vulnerability Management Company, Vulnerability Assessment Company. It's really important to know because we are still a security company no matter what we do. We take the security company, what we've learned in security, we apply it to whatever product the company we purchase and tie it in and look at it as a big platform altogether. And when you look at this, all right, you look at this modern attack surface and you hear this time, you hear Gartner coin it, you hear everybody else coin it. And the whole idea is that we know, because you guys know, that the attack surface is really growing, all right? There are a lot of threats out there. It's growing at a rapid pace, all right? And the thing is, it's extremely dynamic. And one of the things when I go out there and I talk to C-levels or I talk to executives, one of the things they ask is like, they tell me, it's like, I've got so many products here and things are moving so quick, I can't train my guys. Is that what you guys are feeling today? Training? A lot of products? Exactly. You guys are going through the same thing like the C-levels are talking about. And then the idea is like, we got to interconnect it with everybody. All right. We got to make sure we're running this product, we're running this product. Now, I'm not going to talk about all the products. The one I'm focused on is our public cloud, which is Tenable Cloud Security. Again, things are running at a rapid pace. And with cloud security, you have a number of things. I'm just going to flip through this. New attack vectors, always new attack vectors. There's always something that's out there. And one of the biggest problems that we have, because we have to know about, we now have to become experts in the area that we're working on. Like if you're working on in the cloud environment, you're working on AWS, you have to understand security and what goes into that. If you're working with Azure, you got to understand that. And then not only that, you got to also understand things like containers, Kubernetes, and then you got to go understand serverless functions and how that, all the security that's wrapped around that. Very difficult. These are new attack vectors, and I'll show you some of the reasons why they're new. And it's stuff that we have to be very focused on. The other thing is shortage of expertise. All right. When I was at a former company, I was there. I was one of the few cloud guys, and it's a huge company, like 1,500 people. And I was one of the few cloud guys, and we were just trying to get everybody up to speed on the cloud. But I didn't know that much about. I knew more than most people did. But when I moved over to Tenable, I really had to know a lot more about the cloud because that's what they're focused on. And that short of expertise is a real thing today. And the reason, one of the biggest things is not just because it's a cloud. They have to know security and everything that's around security. I got to know about, this attack. I got to know about this attack. How did it get into here? You really got to understand security. The thing is that, and it ties me in the next one, you should have tools that make your job easier. The problem is you guys have too many tools. That is a huge problem, right? You're not in your head. I live it, guys. I know what it's like. Too many tools. Then you have, so it's called tools overload. A lot of companies want to say, okay, we want to consolidate the tools and get it together. So they consolidate it. An event happens, then they're buying more tools and you get it, and it starts getting bigger again. So it's really difficult to keep up. It's also very difficult to keep everybody trained on the latest stuff on the new tools because everything's changing. Security changes so fast. All right. And some things are there pretty much the same. You pretty much use the same, like Nessus hasn't really changed much, right? You still use the same scanning stuff. You still use the same tools that will do your basic stuff. But as this network starts to grow, as everything gets interconnected, you have to have the context of what actually goes on in between the area. And the other thing is that there's limited collaboration. I'll get into this a little bit more, but because of that, all right, there's limited collaboration. What I'm talking about is like nobody's talking to each other. Tool one's not talking to another tool. You don't have the full context of everything. And so what happens is we've grown so rapidly that we thought we knew this much about the cloud. It's grown and it's about this much. Now it's grown this much and we still know about this much about the cloud, right? That's the problem that we're running into. That's what we see. The maturity is like we keep taking a step forward, but it grows so fast that it looks like it's like going in like one of those dreams, right? You're going through that tunnel and you're like running. You ever had that dream? I didn't have one. Just curious. All right, so that's just one of the things. So here's just an example, all right? I just call it oh snap because that's actually what happened on this attack. All right, any of you guys know on this one? So I'm just going to give you kind of a scenario of what happened in this attack, right? And I'm going to try to do this based on memory because I don't have my notes with me. It's not going through my trusty old Apple iPad. Anyways, so this attack is honest. And what they did is that Log4j hit. And about the time Log4j hit, the company, the software that they were using for their payment system was actually, they notified Honest and they said, hey, we've got a Log4j patch coming out. You need to put that out there. Well, they went ahead and put it out there. Thought they were okay. Haven't ever heard that story? Nobody? All right. Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you. Maybe one guy. So what happened is they put the patch out there, and then too late. They've already been compromised, right? Because the patch came maybe a day later, maybe whatever. So they didn't do anything. They didn't take the extra step. So that came out later. So you think it stopped there? No, the hackers wanted to do more. And they always want to do more because once they get access to one thing, they get access to another and want to see how far they go. So what they did is they started going into finding out things. They found like files that had like permissions to other things and had maybe some password or elevated permissions. And so what happened was they had access to their S3 bucket in the cloud. All right. And so now they have elevated access. They can take S3, stuff that's stored on S3, which is their customer data. And so they got access to the customer data, and then they launched a ransomware and said, hey, we want I think it was like $5 million or something like that. I don't know why $5 million, like you're going to do ransomware, just up it up. But anyways, that's me, but I'm not a hacker. So anyways, so they did this, and they ended up exposed and telling their customers, "Yeah, we messed up." They didn't even go and do launch, ransomware. But here's the lesson to be learned on this thing. All right, you get hacked with one thing. All right, this is the threat vector. You go one threat vector. Now I'm in, and now that you're in, you have access to a little bit more than you did on the outside. This is the mindset you have to think of. Is like, once I'm in, now I've opened up the door to everything else. Like walking in the front door, I have access to everything else. They have access to everything else, and then they're secretly doing things. They set up a command and control, figured out what's going on, because now that it's a smart thing to do. Command and control, especially over SSL, can't see what's going on. And then they had access. The reason why they had access to the S3 buckets because they had access to the IAM policy or the permissions and roles. It's a big deal. So that's the snap moment. That's what I call snap. But the so that's big. So the lesson to learn is, number one is, obviously you need to patch the systems, right? I mean, that's an easy. Or if you don't patch a system, put something in place like some threat prevention software in front of your servers that at least detect, or IPS system to detect the attack. The second thing you need to do is you got to continuous monitoring, right? It's like, once you do continuous monitoring, you just don't stop. Oh, log4j, oh, we didn't get hit, but you're not looking at the right things. And the other thing is like elevated permissions. Your identities, really important. Authentication, where you get access to, is extremely important. And when you look at this, is that the problem with today is like, and this is you guys heard of Capital One. This is often talked about breach, is that there's your workloads are out public, okay, and promise I'm going to get to the technical stuff, but they're public, and then you also have the security postures, like allows people. Well, your workloads have vulnerabilities. Your configurations are misconfigured because now you're allowing specific access to those devices that have that have vulnerabilities, and then you have what we call excess privileges. All right, if you're not familiar with excess privileges, it's just like, I'm a user and I get access. I have for AWS. I have that, I have a user account, but because I need to do a lot of things and I'm complaining to the guy, the administrator, to, give me administrator access. So it gives me administrator access. All right. So that's all good. All right. I get to do everything, but your developer did that. All right. I'm not picking on developers, but typically what happens is developer do that. And I have overprivileged accounts. And then what happens is that, you get access to that. You might store the information in someplace else, which typically happens. All right. It typically happens. You put it in someplace else and you have access to it. And I'll show you an example of that. But here's the thing. That's just the access piece. Okay. Overprivileged account. Great. I'm going to fix that. Vulnerabilities. Great. I'll fix that. Access to the devices from the outside, like, security groups are wide open. I'm going to fix that. But at no time have you even looked at all three of those and how does it relate to all three? All right. How does my overprivileged account relate to something that's public access? All right. You need to know the context of what's going on of the systems. That's the thing. That's the issue. All right. Is that the context is extremely important. And with that context, now you're starting to talk. Now I can start looking at things on how it affects my entire network posture or my entire security posture. That's the issue. All right. You guys following me on that? Yeah. Is that, yeah, I had too much pizza? Okay. I'm just curious. All right. So this is the issue. So I'm looking at the assets, the identities, and the relationship between all of those and who has access to them. And that's what's important. And when we talk about this, like, you have specific point tools that are like focused on the unique individual area, like CSPM, like I was talking about, or CWPP, like containers, or my workloads, or things of that nature, or my IAM, roles or permissions and stuff like that. None of this stuff, they're all point solutions, but that's the collaboration. They're not all talking to each other. And so you don't get the full view of what's actually happening. Kind of like what happened in Honest. They didn't get the full view. They thought patching the system, done. No, you didn't go further in to figure out what they were actually doing, look at the activity and things of that nature. So you didn't do that. So what we found, we purchased a company called Hermetic. All right. Hermetic was a cloud company, or a cloud security company. They did it. One of their biggest things is CIM, which is Cloud Infrastructure Entitlement Management, which is a long word to say that I'm just looking at basically authentication and other things that are within that environment. But one of the biggest things is they did CIM extremely well. They did CNAP extremely well. And I'm going to talk a little bit about CIM because your identity is the new perimeter now. All right. The identity is a new perimeter. Why is that? It's not like your network firewalls are the new perimeter. Yeah, that's always going to be there. It's not a big deal. But the identities follow you because it doesn't really matter where you're at. You could be remote and get access to it and still expose but based on the identity that's built into like your IAM role or your IAM user group. Based on that, I may be able to make it wide open. And if somehow the keys that you use to get access to that device is on GitHub, all right, or something like that, then now I have access. It's a real thing, all right? And I'll give you an example. So here's an OCNAP moment. When I'm talking about authentication, I'm talking about like your AWS. How many of you use AWS? Raise hands. All right, so you guys know what I'm talking about, right? When I talk about AWS credentials, all right? So do this. Your credentials are wide open, all right? That's really important, but create a machine image that has your credentials in it and make them public. Guys, it's wide open. You've just given somebody that your machine image, so you can use, like you came out with the latest thing, and you wanted to save it, now it's public, or it might be private, it's internal, somebody else uses it, they make it public, right? So your AMIs now follow that has all that critical information, all right? So now guess what? I now have access, so I can find out I have access to this. Here's just a story. There's a guy in YouTube, he's a trainer. He was typing stuff in, and these guys train, and they get in there and they go into and they create access keys. And I don't know if you heard this story, but what he did was he was online, he did the access keys, and it showed up on the screen, which that's not a good thing to do. And he kept it on the screen and he kept the systems open. And one of his students got in and he says, "Oh, by the way, I just got under your system. I'm just letting you know that." YouTube, it's another way to get the access, right? Now that you do machine images, you do this. Guys, this is just common sense stuff we got to talk to you about. I'm not trying to scare you guys all. This is just trying to share this information. Lambda's the same way. You can put it in Lambda. Again, because it's in Lambda, it's serverless, and you need access to stuff, you might want to hard code it in there, right? It's like, oh yeah, easy, hard coded. That's the easiest thing. So you put your access keys and your secret keys in there. Now you have access. The bottom line is what I'm telling you is that to get the access code is extremely simple. Once I have the code and I have the privileges, now I can do the dirty work. Now I can go in. That's the big challenge that we have to do. Just like now I have access and then do the dirty work. Now, what's the guy doing once he has access? It's really important. So I'm not going to actually do this demo, but I'm going to step you through it. And the reason why I'm not doing this, I actually recorded it. And then when I recorded it, I was like, I had to like, the access keys were always visible, and I had to keep going through the recording. I said, forget it. I'm not going to do the recording because you're not going to have the access keys. The same thing that I'm telling you. Don't put the access keys on the recording. But if you've ever done anything like with Cloud Goat or whatever, this is basically the same thing. It's like you can carefully craft an exploit within Lambda, or you can look at a Lambda thing and you can look at this, and basically you can go through and you get the access keys, and then from there you can use AWS CLI, list all the roles out there, figure out some of the functions, and you can start targeting different areas. And this is easy to do. It's not that hard to do, especially if you're just trying to do pen testing. And then after a while, what you end up doing is you find a place that is, in this case, for this code, just for training, you can find a place that says, oh, by the way, here's a Lambda code, and actually can insert this into a payload and actually do a SQL injection into a database that has access. And then now I can use that injection I can use that and then create another account with more access. And you have no idea that it happened. You have no idea because all I did was just, a SQL injection into that. And this is all the stuff that's going on with this. You can't see it from here, so I'm just going to skip it. If you can, Dan, you got really good eyes. I'm just saying. All right. So this is really important. So that's what we're doing. So that's the other thing. So it's important to understand the fact that when we look at this, is that identities there needs to be a life cycle also with identities. Not only do you want to give them least privilege access, but some identities will be out there in the wild for a long time, especially like service ones. All right. And then sometimes they don't need access to everything. After a while, might need a whole lot of access and they need to shrink it down. You need to continuously monitor that. And that's really important to know. Service identities are more, it's just like putting the machine out there and never touching it again. It's essentially, that's what you're kind of doing. Human identity is a little bit more different because the access is dynamic and most people want the most access. So they don't have to want to keep coming back and you changing this, but you need to go through this. So these are all the challenges that are, they're important. Vader, all right, this is a good one. I don't know if I can play this because I'm not even hooked up to the video here. But basically, this scene right here is when, I don't know if you guys who has not watched Star Wars? I just want to make sure. Okay, this is a scene from Star Wars. All right, get out of here. That's right. You didn't watch Star Wars. Actually, one of our marketing persons didn't watch Star Wars. She said, by the way, I didn't ever watch Star Wars. I have no idea what you're talking about. I said, ah. All right. So this is what happened. All right. There are Hans and Leia, and if you guys know this story, I'm just going to repeat it in the case you didn't raise your hand. So basically, they're in the ship and they're trying to get through, bypass the security, and so they gave them old code. So Darth Vader's out there. He goes, where they have access. And he goes, yeah, those are old codes. So I was going to give them access anyways. And Darth Vader's like, oh, okay. That's your CSO or your CISO right there, right? It's like, oh, okay, go ahead and do it. Like he had no idea what was going on. But Vader is the Empire CISO. And I always laugh when I look at this, like, he's had no idea what he's doing. But, none of you, I'm not mocking anybody who's a CISO, are they? All right, so this is that's the scene. Again, old codes, not managed, given access, you're in. All right. It's so, if Darth Vader bought Tenable, it'd have been great, because he wouldn't have gotten broken into, but he didn't. Well, that didn't go well as I thought it did. You guys were supposed to be laughing on that. I don't know what happened on that one. So I bombed on that one. Let me take a drink and start all over on that one. All right. That went well in my head. I'm laughing hard inside on that one. All right. Okay. So let's get to Tenable Cloud Security. We got all these challenges around CNAP. We got, in CNAP about identity, workload protection and all this other stuff. And the CNAP, the bottom line is that we need to be able, there's a lot of challenges around CNAP, which I kind of discussed. But the idea that this around CNAP is integrating all of those pieces that I talked about together so you get better context of what's going on. And so if you look at CNAP, you've got the identities, you have the network, you have the data, you have the compute, you have the runtime, you have, secrets, all that stuff works together. If I have secrets, where is that actually line? Is it in my serverless functions or whatever, right? So you've got to take a look at that. But what we're trying to do is with our CNAP solution, we're trying to identify this and provide that back to you, all right? In a very simple way, so you don't have to become security experts. You just need to be Tenable Cloud security experts, just understand it. And trust me, it's a lot simple. Or a lot simple? Simpler. Thank you. I have 10th grade reading, so whatever. All right, so that's what we have here. And identity driven is like, if you look at this, all right, CNAP's kind of in the middle, but you have the components on the outside. And the one component I'm talking about is like CSPM, which is Cloud Security Posture Management. You get to look at the misconfigurations, how it's deployed out there, and understand how it's done. And then you take a look at that. The other thing is CWPP, which is our workloads. You look at the containers, you look at the compute nodes all together. Do they have vulnerabilities? And then you kind of record that information, keep that in mind. And then Kim, all that stuff is all together. This circle right here is how we work together to understand your environment and whether or not you are vulnerable. All right. Again, we're a vulnerable management company, so we look at vulnerabilities and we try to do this stuff, right? So you look at all of this, log analysis, KSPM, we're looking at Kubernetes, we're looking at infrastructure as code even. We're looking at is your infrastructure as code as it's deployed, how does it impact your security environment? We may tell you that, like, when we look at it, we say, hey, you need to remediate. We found some things that you need to fix, because that becomes a true north as you deploy it. Then it becomes, part of your runtime system. So you have to be able to take a look at that. Now it all works together. And this is kind of like in this area right here, when you look at like DevSecOps and what security does, this is where we're trying to create that tool. So the developers and the security guys can all, walk hand in hand and be all real happy and stuff like that and sing Kumbaya, which probably doesn't happen. It's like Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker thing, but it doesn't work out that way. But we're trying to make it easy so you get access to both. That failed too, man. Come on. All right. Yeah, that's good. This guy's my man right here. All right. So what does it look like? What does the product look like? So when we do this, we have different components, and you can also access it through the API and grab some of that information if you need to. But we're looking at several different things. I'm going to pull out my, is it working? It doesn't work on, that actually doesn't work on this. This is Zoom. All right. We're looking at different components. This is cloud security right here. And you have a UI, you have access to everything. And then we also collect and we analyze CloudTrail. We look at all the context of everything. We're looking at the activity, what's going on in different systems. And we're integrated with like our identity providers, like the top ones, Okta, Ping One or Ping Identity, and some of the other ones. And then we're also, we're a multi-cloud environment. I mean, we run on top of AWS, but we're also, we work together. So that way you have context across all the platforms, not just one platform, which most do, all the platforms, okay? I'm not saying most vendors do that, but I'm saying like most people just rely on their native security. So if you're doing AWS, you're not gonna ever see anything on Azure. And I don't know about you guys, but most of the accounts I've been into is like, it's typically multi, they're doing one, you're going to do another one, especially if you're in software development. You're not going to just stick to one vendor. So we're doing a multi-cloud. We're also doing, we can be added into the CI/CD pipelines. All right. And that's really important because that's the IAC component I'm talking about. Now, this is really important because you don't know, like with the company at the beginning, when I was talking at the very beginning, if somebody developed something and the development goes really quick when you're talking on the, with the cloud, it moves fast. It's just like we get a developer, we just go out there. I remember when I'm going to date myself, right? When we're doing development, we have to wait for a long time. It's like, okay, you just read the code, you do all this other stuff, and you got to go and put it through a batch, and then it goes through and compiles stuff, and that could take a day. And then if you mess up, you go. It doesn't work like that now, right? You push it out there in the cloud, you get it done, you roll it over, put it in the pipeline, and get it done. I mean, it's that fast. Or do a pull request if you need to. All right, so it works pretty quickly. So we work with a lot of the CI/CD pipelines, and the other thing is like we're also integrated with the other tools. But the most important thing I think is like all this information that we're looking at. If you look at this, if you look at the second bullet down here, right here, we're looking at. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm going to tell it to you. It's like identity, privileges, inventory, network, vulnerabilities, containers, the activity logs. We're looking at all of that stuff, and then on the CI/CD pipeline, we're doing scans. We're looking at the policy. We're looking at exceptions. Things of that nature. All that stuff is the context of what you're deploying. That's what we're trying to do. And I want to show you kind of the demo on what we're looking. Okay, so the high-level summaries, we're going to provide visibility. All right, we're going to assess and prioritize your risk and do remediation or show you what needs to be done. We're not going to remediate for you unless you need to. And then we'll also do detect and response. All right, we're looking at the anomalies that might occur in the system. We're kind of notifying you. This is kind of what we're seeing. And then the other thing is like we do compliance and making sure that you're also meeting you get a score with whatever compliance industry regulation you're working with. So you do that. You also have the ability of doing things that are really quick. We have this thing called just-in-time access. If the developer is not there or somebody's not there, you can just log on, do just-in-time access. They get a window that they can make changes really quick, which is extremely important when you're dealing with security. So you do that and you get automated reports. So I'm going to show you really quick what the demo looks like. So if the demo doesn't work out, I'm just going to go back to the slides. That's the extra 50 slides that I was talking about. So, all right, so let's go back and show you what it looks like. Oh, look at that. I already have it going. So this is the dashboard. All right. Looks like every other dashboard. But when you look at this on this top left side, these are your organizations or your accounts. You can have, I'm just AWS, so I don't have Microsoft in there or GCP. You can do that. But you have that and you can look at, you can set it up for all the accounts. But what's most important is like I can see my IAM resources. I can see everything. Like if I click on this button, I can see what my groups are. This is basically my asset information. So you get the compute resources, network resources, security resources. Oh, let's go to Amazon and try to get this. No, I'm not picking on Amazon. I love Amazon, but I want to go to EC2. Yeah, EC2. What am I running here? I got instances here. And so you got to go to each one and look at what is my instance running? What do I have connected to each other? So you're having to go through each of these. It's a little bit more time consuming than to just go through something like this and say, oh, I have compute resources. I want to find out what I have on my instances. And then boom, I have access to all of my instances and I can drill down further. Or I can even go down further and say, who has network exposure? And what scope? Is it to everybody? Let's look at all IPs. And guess what? These are the instances that I have access. These are ones I have access to public everything. I can drill down even further. All right. Gives me a lot more information. It's basically information about the system. I can go through findings and, oh, hey, look at that. I've got an overprivileged IAM role that's assigned to this, that's being affected by that. You'd have to do a lot of searching in AWS to try to find that. Now, there's Access Analyzer you can do, but you figure you don't have just one EC2 instance or two or three. You might have hundreds of them, and they're always moving at any time. So they can do that. And so I have the ability of doing that. So this is one of the ways we look at. So we know that it's all good. So, okay, yeah, well, that's all great. But let's look at how does it, my network? Oh, well, I have security groups that give access, and I'm showing you that gives access to like 443 to 422 if there's other types of access. So you get a better idea of what the systems look like. The other thing too is in the findings, here's what's cool about this. So I click on this, and now this gives me the context. And if you guys can see this, I don't know if you can, let me see if I can I do this? Wow, look at that. All right. Uh-huh.
How does it know that the privilege escalation?
How does it know the privilege escalation happened? Hasn't happened yet. We just know that it's tied into privilege escalation. There's this EC2 instance has an IAM role that's tied into that has escalated privileges. We know that because you can actually see it in when I pull it up, actually, let me get, because just to answer your question. What's that?
Also, yeah.
Yes. Yes. Did you hear that? Okay. See, that's how I rely on these guys.
So, right. We're looking at all your.
No. It's just right now, I'm just showing you what's assigned. I haven't even showed you whether or not there's a vulnerability now. I'm just saying it's been assigned. So when I go into here and let's go to hold on. I'm going to go to find it. Well, let me show you this first, right? I'm doing this, and hopefully this next thing will answer your question. All right. So this particular role that I found that's tied into my EC2 instances, I can look here and say, well, he's attached to several different policies. I have permissions and I can have access to 385 services. All right. It's given me a view of what I actually have. At the top, it says that particular privilege, that particular role that has excess privileges, it's also assigned to other instances that are out there. So now I have I'm getting a better context. Now I'm just reading this and not really understanding what has it been affected yet, right? I haven't done anything yet, or what's been done. So I can look at that. And the nice thing about this is I have activity. All right. I can look at the activity of that particular role. So it's really important to look at. Now, that activity is just not assigned to this, it's assigned to everything. So I'm going to drill back and hopefully be able to answer that last question about this. So let's just roll it back here real quick. Are you guys understanding this? Is this good? Yes? Not a lot of questions here, just one, two. All right, so I had the ability of looking at this. Now, even furthermore, let's just look at IAM security. This is going to show everything, but I want to just see severity level that's critical. And I want to drill down into this a little bit more. Here's my escalation. Here's my host. Here's the escalation. This is what roles I have tied to this. And now I can see what impact it has. That particular one has impact. The IAM role that's tied to that EC2 instance. That's the context I'm talking about, right? Because let's say you had one EC2 instance, that one hadn't been attacked. But there's another one that you haven't even looked at that's been attacked. And you can probably see it here and get a better view of what's actually going on. But I've just, this is just scratching the surface. I haven't even touched the areas that are really important to you. So that's important to look at. I can go in here and I can, I can look at my workloads. I can see all the vulnerabilities if I wanted to. It was the software first, and then I can look at the vulnerabilities. I can actually filter it based on the severity level, and then I can go to the activity log. All right, and this is where it's really fun. Has that particular identity been used? Well, actually, hold on. Let me take a step back. What this is telling me is anything that EC2 instance was involved in, it's the activity that's associated with that. So now I have some better context and a better view of what's actually going on. So it's almost like doing forensics at this point. All right. You're going down into more detail because now I can go down and like, okay, did it have access to this? What is an assume role? Because if it was an assume role, then now I'm getting someplace because and this was actually part of one of the EC2 instances that I was using the assume role to actually gain privilege access to. Go ahead. Yes, it does. It does. I'll show you the remediation on that one. Go ahead.
So someone needs to constantly monitor this, or you can configure this.
You can configure and notify it. Yeah. I have one configured every time I launch a system in there. It sends it through. I have an SNS request and it sends it to me. So go ahead.
So I haven't worked on it out much,
Mhm.
but with traditional to work on the normal network. It will run the recast and then you find out what device or your network is. How does it happen in the cloud? Is there some agent sitting which will tell you whatever, or how does it capture all the information?
We're reading it through. It's different. So in the cloud, what we're doing is actually, with like a compute node is what we're doing. And so what we actually do is we take the snapshot, we pull it in the environment and run, we scan the snapshot and we report that back to you. That's how we're doing it. With containers, it's kind of almost the same thing. We're like looking through the containers. So it's just a little bit different. It's agentless, by the way. So you're not having to run an agent, which takes up a lot of time. So
Does it say AWS? They keep very close track of. So through the APIs, all that created the platform. And once we have. Well, we would have the API through the API, we have a sheet set up for specific.
yeah, good point. Thank you. Okay, so that's just piece. Now, let's go back to the dashboard. All this stuff is really important, because I can also use compliance too, right? I can use compliance as my baseline and look at that. And through here, I can also look at like best practices around compliance. There's like a AWS, well architected. I can go to NIST. I can create my own policy basically on what I need to do, and it gives me a score based on that. So like with it well architected, my cloud environment looks like, oh, it's not that bad. I mean, it's like 73%. I'm pretty good. And I'm pretty good, man. And I've just put stuff out there. But no, it's seriously, you can drill down even further if you need to. But I even wanted to make it as simpler, all right? Because I've just showed you got to look around and stuff like that. And I kind of like defeated the purpose of not making you guys, having you guys use tools. So can we all agree that if you have a public vulnerability or you have a public workload that has access, and it's assigned maybe an IAM role that has overly permissive, and there's vulnerabilities in that, can we agree that that's not a good thing, right? I mean, if you don't agree with that, we need to talk. I got something to sell you. So no, seriously though, but let's just agree on that. I mean, we agreed also that over permissive accounts is not a good thing, right? It's not a good thing.
Unless you're on.
Yeah, but we're not talking honeypot here. We're not going to scan for a honeypot. So we definitely know that if you have public access and there's vulnerabilities, we look at those are we call toxic combinations. And toxic combinations, just say, what are my toxic combinations? It's the thing I go to first. If I hear that there's a vulnerability that's out there, I should go to there and see, does that meet that requirement? I should go there first. It makes it easier. Now you have visibility over this, right? So now I can go here and all that stuff I was doing to click on, it just shows up and it says, here's the environment that has these toxic combinations. Now you can go in, and if you need to, you can go in and say, okay, these have toxic combinations. That's not good. Let's go to, let's go to the findings. Here's an overprivilege. Here's an IAM role. And then let's see what I can do. I can either resolve it now and say that it really doesn't apply, or I can drill down further if I need to, and then just look at, oh, by the way, you talked about remediation. Here's a remediation step. That's a manual step. All right. Or I can go here and I can create the rules if I needed to. This is what you need to do. This is actually what it looked like. But I can go through and remediate that. This is an easy one. And I can do a pull request and it'll go out there and remediate that. There's in other situations where I have this, I can actually it will actually produce Terraform code. It actually produce, the code that's needed, or the JSON script that's needed. So you can actually throw it out there. So once you see it, you can push it out there and get that done rather quickly. So there's that capability. So now the point in going there is like, I've got the ability to look at my toxic combinations and then may take action on this extremely quick, right? So that's the part I was saying, that because the networks happen so quick, or it's very dynamic, I'm take a look at that, need to make a reaction. But if you don't have time, but there's some steak knives, all right? There's, if you only have 5 minutes, I can just drill down and just say, what, based on some algorithm we're figuring out, this is like, need to do these EC2 instances. Here's what we need to do here. And here are the remediation steps. Just a boom, 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 really quick. We're just saying like, okay, these will take less than 5 minutes. Knock these out at least to get going. All right. So we're trying to make it as simple as you can to be able to look at it. You can almost do everything to the dashboard if you want. You can look at additional findings. You can actually go through and just want to look at only critical ones. It'll show up only critical ones. All right.
Questions?
Uh-huh.
If an enterprise like wants to use kind of the security AWS cloud instances, what kind of data available will put access to space? Is it always getting this dashboard is populated based on the APIs, or is it actually going to the instances? Because I saw some vulnerabilities identified, so that means you're scanning that, what level of access you need.
It depends on what you're looking at. Like there's an API for the workloads, all right? So we'd be able to take a look and do the scan on that one. There's an API for the IAM security, so we'll look at that and we'll be able to take and I determine. And then there's also the context of all of that stuff together. So we're looking at CloudTrail, and then look at CloudTrail, who's it getting access to. So we'll do that, and we do, that's basically what we're doing.
So this dashboard, some of that is powered based on CloudTrail.
Some of it's based on CloudTrail, some of it's based on activity logs that are going on in the system and stuff like that. There's a myriad of stuff that's going on. We're just not looking at it. So sometimes on the onboarding, like mine is really quick. I can put something out there and then it's going to give me information. But there's a learning period that it has to go through on some of your resources that are out there, because it does need a little bit more information. It might give you like the basic information, like, yeah, this is a new role that's just been assigned. But if you click on it, that new role it'll tag you and say this is still learning, and so it's still scanning the environment.
Okay.
So
Last question, if Tenable is compromised, then what are the implications to the enterprise using Tenable to secure the cloud?
if we're compromised,
Because you're reading stuff like who are the active users, how many inactive users, you're basically trying to find the vulnerabilities in our system, for instance. Is there any data that you store into your tenant space?
No.
Electronic enterprise cloud?
No, we don't store that data. We don't, I mean, there's data that we do store, but that's actually, there's actually, I mean, you can go online and look, but there's actually we keep some of that data, some of this data for a long time, but go ahead and finish it.
If you go to the CSA Star Registry, you can see our, I'll say, one.
Yeah, thank you. That's where I was headed to. I was heading there in a long way, but I was basically dancing until somebody came up with the answer. So.
So you guys are CS, so that's another way to say you're CS sponsor.
Correct.
Well, we'll fly to the side.
Yeah.
This is sad.
Did I dance well? Was that a good dance? That's awesome.
Also, don't need the answer. Listen to- don't get the answer. What is the answer? Like, how do you protect the data? Like, put it in the form. This one.
So they're saying that they're not going to store any data of our cloud.
What's the condition?
It's not for the, but I was wondering if they have access to the server names, the VM names, or, additional information.
But looks like it is.
I don't know.
We have to have a certain degree of present, obviously, right? But it is encrypted within our environment. And whenever possible, we anonymize data, so because it. So there is some data collected and moved over, but it is part of. Well, in order to present it, but most of the time, once you roll up the data, you have very few key pieces of data that you share.
Yeah, well, there's just letting you know that the requirements to actually put something on AWS is pretty strict. All right. And we've got to meet a lot of those requirements, and we have to do scans. We have to submit like even pen tests or stuff like that. It's not that easy, because I've been through that. And it's, they're looking at your key rotations, how often you do this, and there's a strict standard that AWS has, because they have to be able to submit the same thing. So,
Yeah, so I'm comfortable sharing information, how often my keys are rotated, as long as you don't have access to my keys.
yeah, I understand. Yeah, actually, we have to do a report. I think it's every 2 years. They did the last two, just this last year. And we have to create we have to demonstrate some of that stuff. It's not like, yes, and then it goes in and gets approved. They actually go through it. So it's a little bit different. All right. I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna be going on, how many hours, more hours do I have left?
I just wanted to cover one thing. That's your first one. Can you scroll down to
Go ahead.
We're asking about, data encryption. You'll see vulnerabilities under EC2 instances, but we also look at configuration for what we might. Yeah. So we have to look at a lot of things. It's not just, but the value comes in when we're taking those disparate pieces of information and telling you what the types of combinations. So if you look at the third one public workflow with an impact. So we're looking at the IAM privilege, you're saying this thing is publicly exposed, but by looking at the individual two instances, seeing what the vulnerabilities are, saying this host is EC2 instance is vulnerable, and it's posted in. So combining those disparate items helps us determine where the risk is. So that's, I think the main value is that I don't know if questions that's risk.
So once you find these vulnerabilities and identify these vulnerabilities, is it just listing out the items to fix, or can you also orchestrate that fix from?
Like doing patch management. Yeah.
So if it's an AWS configuration item, most something for you want to. From the host level, don't. As much, I've been with customers for 6 years, and every time I hear a customer say, can you patch that out for us? Sure. Would you want to press that button? And everyone's like, no. Nobody wants the automatic patching, but no one wants to press the button to do it, right? So, so we give the recommendations and we help prioritize, understanding that it might be something you have to go through some compliance or testing for. So we do a lot of threat intelligence applied to that and help you bring things. Look at this first. And like, if you had 5 minutes, Rick up there says, these are probably the things, if you only had a few minutes, look at these first. Looking at the toxic combinations, looking at the risk, looking at the threat, looking at the vulnerability. These are the things that are the highest risk to your environment you should address.
So one of the things around that automatic patching it could be solved, especially if other environments that mimic each other, maybe at different scales. is for the dev environment, give them that automatic patch capability, right? They can go ahead.
So-
Dozen different, sort providers, orchestration providers, patch manager providers. To do those things, but you don't do it directly yourself.
Yeah, at the very end, there's a component in there where I'm doing a lot of integration work, and that's one of the things that have been brought up, and I'll probably ask that just to see what get a feel, and we can talk later a little bit about, talk later about it, just because that has been brought up. I mean, we do have a component of that, but I do have some customers asking about patch management. We're not going to do the patch management. That's just not capable, but to identify something and to at least show somebody that this needs to be done, that's important. So Tenable Cloud Security, we're kind of working through that. But I'll get through. The last thing I just wanted to mention here, we're kind of like going through put your tray tables up and seat backs up to the right position. So that went. So like this is just kind of gives me, this is like anomaly detection, right? And it kind of shows the stuff that I've been doing. It's like it shows like I was getting access to data. It was recording some of that. And this actually goes over time. You're going to see more of this. It doesn't really show that much because I'm only one account. And then it also shows like, am I doing reconnaissance? So it kind of takes a look at, okay, he's looking at data, now he's doing that. He's also going on CLI, and he's doing list roles, get roles, doing all that other stuff, that typically a hacker would, end up doing if he was actually going out there and wanting to gain access. So again, the goal is when you go through this, it's to just have a single pane of glass so you can take a look at the stuff and everything is right there. All right. That's what we're trying to make simple. You guys don't have to be security experts. You just have to understand what security is and what it's doing to you. You don't have to dive down deep into like, I have to understand all the roles that I have and how it all applies. You just need to know how it relates to each other and how it exposes, what the vulnerabilities or misconfigurations are to your network or to your systems. And that's really important to look at. All right. And that's what we're trying to do here. So let me go back real quick and try to finish up. I didn't finish it. This is all the good stuff. So yeah, that's how we roll. But in general, that's what we're looking at. So now I got it. This is the song and dance sales thing that marketing always has me put in. But I'm just gonna just try to finish it up here. Is that our goal is not just like just supply you information to sell you something, right? We're just gonna try to provide that information and actively really be part of your security posture. And I mean, that's really important to look at. That's what we're trying to do. And that's why people actually choose us, is that it's just no frills. We're just giving it to you the way it is and getting it done. All right. And that's really all you guys need to do, because, you don't have enough time on your hands to be able to execute and finish all this stuff and be able to understand everything. We want to provide that to you. So we have a really user-friendly environment. We have the ability to look at identity. We're one of the cloud, where we're the industry leader in that. We have that dynamic risk and analysis prioritization, which I talked about. And you have detailed findings, so you actually look at that, and then maybe the developers can shake your hand at because you found problems in his code. So you have the ability to do that. It's just some of the other, this is just by the numbers. You can take a look at that. I'm not going to go through that. You probably won't ask me any questions on this. And that's it. Yes. Don't worry about that. Go ahead.
I'm not sure what are the other clouds will be scanning software.
There's only one Tenable.
Qualys was one of a very strong competitor.
Oh, I'm starting to faint. What was that? What was that?
So how are you doing things differently than say your top competitors, like your top scanners, cloud-based scanners? What are you doing different? What you brought this differently than the other?
I got a lot of answers for that. Why don't you want to take the competitive side?
I'd say probably in pieces. Identity access. In POV, I'd be back a little bit. So Rick presented primarily, but this is really involved because GCP or Azure data, see that, see you ranking across platforms, not just within. And we pull this data back into our larger platform. While the past week, because you probably the trend where more companies are starting against cloud only companies, right? They're pure cloud, everything's got the cloud. But there's still a crap load of companies out there, they got premises and you got cloud. And it's not just premises to cloud, you got complex environment where you probably have some trust in there as well, whether it's the AV or some brand infrastructure. So kind of like a whole, we pull all that together, right? We pull the cloud in, we pull Active Directory, we pull T environment, or key premises environment, Act Surface Manager, and we pull that in. So when we're talking about ranking your risk, you can look at the risk in the cloud, you can look at the risk in your premises, but we can find too and show you really where your risk is and if you have any trust between that. And we map that out through an attack vector where, well, we showed you from a operations perspective, here's how someone's gonna get in, here's your toxic combination where you have device exposed to the internet, on cache. We're gonna look at your environment saying, in your premises, you have this host that's vulnerable, but he can get to 80 this trust to your cloud environment. In your cloud environment, you have this, and so on, until the cloud environment. So we pull that together from an overarching perspective as a platform and try to really help you with your overall corporate risk, right? So cloud and cloud focused meeting, but it's only part of looking at your own. So
I'm sure other tools will be doing the same thing.
there's other companies that may do stuff like that. That may. Not as good as Pentagon. No offense.
Yeah, that's right, right?
But.
Right?
But, they bring a different flavor of ice cream to the party. Right. So
But that's-
we may do something better than, we may do something better than us.
Right, how is your different? That's the question. What are you doing differently to make your product unique or competitive?
Are you talking with respect to cloud or talking with respect to the platform?
Everything. Because now everything is like, as you say, like it's a hybrid solution. You have something on-prem, something on cloud, and you want a solution where you are not using multiple tools, one tool to do both. So how are you doing things differently compared to other scanners? We does something similar, we provide something similar service.
And, I would turn that question around. The security director for a company in the past and looking at a lot of point solutions and vendors. You can always say, what do you do differently than the other? And I'm gonna tell you at the end of the day, probably doesn't matter, right? The answer to that question doesn't matter. The answer to the question I would ask back to you, what problem are you trying to solve, right? Are we them? Are they us? No. They have this feature and you don't? Yeah. Why have this feature and they don't? Yeah, right? If we were the same, it wouldn't matter who we looked at. Because what problems are we solving that we have?
But as a client or as one of the customers, if I go to any provider, I ask that question, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? All the vendors on the line say, oh yeah, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this. Actually, when you try to implement it, you come to, oh, we cannot do this, we have roundabout way of doing this and this and that, all these things will come up once you start deploying. But once you initially reach out to them, no, we can do it, yeah, we can do it.
Sure, but that's what sort of problem are you trying to solve? Because, you ask me, can you turn this red? Yeah, I can turn this red. Why do you want to turn it red? What are you trying to solve? And that's the real question, right? So we solve problems, not just have features. We're looking at features, you're not gonna go forward. You're gonna be probably sadly disappointed by if you're just shopping features, right? Because you want a solution, you want to understand what the problem is to solve. So I would just make the recommendation to look at the problem.
Yeah, and
The problem is what you're trying to solve.
yeah, and that's a good point. I threw out here, I didn't want to throw this out there because it sounds more sales oriented, but this is just an example of a customer who, that said, that, yeah, we go ahead, you can put this out here publicly and you can show you that if you can look at the challenges that they have, need to retain, rapid data business support, you can read that through the line, and then why they chose Tenable. All right, this is just kind of an example of like what Jim was talking about. It's like if we go back to the customer and just say, okay, what are you trying to solve? Doesn't meet these requirements. And when you see that, they needed, expertise. They need to be able to auto-generate the policy. They need time to value recommendations like really quick, the improved decisions. These are the things that were really important to them. If you go by feature to feature, you might not touch this. Some of this stuff is not feature oriented. It's just the way that the product works in general. It's just the way you get that information. Like I showed you that one dashboard, you get time to value, the recommendations, all right there. But that's not a feature. That's just the nature of the product. Does that make sense? All right. The features is something like, oh, does you do Kim? What does it do in Kim? Do you do filters? That's features. This is what meets the requirement at the end of the day. All right. Go ahead.
I can definitely see the value of something you're bringing up, especially in the part of data. I think the last one there, how you decreasing false positives? I mean, that's always the most expensive stuff. We have two things in most of these. So part of thinking, I really like understanding how to make that statement specifically about reducing false positives. Yeah, so we have a very large research team, hundreds of people. that are-
Okay, you want to go on the, you,
So,
hello.
you know, one of the things is you can go solution everything, but we develop a big amount of- Right? So one of the things we do, page that Rick has right here. This is our plugins or our detection page. And if you notice, if you get it, this is publicly available, anybody wants to look at it. On the left, we have newest, in the search box. And on the right, we have updated. Updated is the key here, right? So false positives, usually about. So you detect a vulnerability in Red, it's a certain release number. Some vendors will say, well, Red Hat greater than 12 is this vulnerability. But it's fixing 13. So now you're on 13, since greater than 12 is your vulnerability, we haven't updated that plugin. 13 is going to be vulnerable because the rule says greater than 12. Right? So that column recently updated plugins. We have teams of people who are looking at every detection we run. We're looking at the environment, saying how do we change it, how do we update it, what changed, Red Hat released the patch. Let's see what they did. That's right. Does our detection still work? We need to update it. So we publish those every day. What's released new, what we've updated. And if you look at some of our competitors or according to false. False negatives. It's usually because they release something different. We have 1,000 buttons, we have 2,000 buttons, we have 3,000. 2,000 are so old. So we invest a lot of money as a company into this. This is our bread and butter.
It's actually one of the biggest differentiators, right? Is this. So,
I've used your product 50 or 4 times in my career. Last time was, you know, at that time you were at 59,000 logins. And you were doing credential authenticated scans.
Yeah.
Even then we used to get so many false positives. I almost lost my job because of that. So I will run the scan, authenticate the scan, and I will go to the Apache team member. I said, no, we don't have this. And like, oh. So I used to be on the call with your support team in Australia, trying to find out, okay, what am I doing wrong? How can we figure it out? And it was tons of false positives. So that's why, like, I'm not very confident with your false. Well, yeah, you have a
We have a sales team.
supporting also. I used to speak with them almost every night. This to solve the problem. So again, like, oh, so this is
Catch up with me after.
yeah, let's take that one off. That's kind of going down to the hole there. It's like, we don't want that to go through. Now, hey, if you guys have any other support issues, just, these guys got the internet, just go to support@tenable.com, and that's it. So, yeah, slash Austin.
I mean. Never seen someone who said they had consistent false positives.
Okay, yeah, just go,
now maybe it isn't 100,000, whatever. What has changed since then? How you can say 100% that, okay, these plugins are not going to show any false positives? What are you doing different?
Yeah, we'll get to that later. Here we go. Here's a laser. Look at that. Look at, see laser? All right.
Let's say I'm a customer, CNAP product. So how difficult is it for me? CNAP doing what?
Oh, it's just a matter of onboarding. It's just a matter of onboarding. You just onboard the whatever cloud environment you're working in, you onboard it, set it up that way. It's not that difficult. I mean, you could start like, I've got multiple AWS accounts, multiple other accounts too. And if I want to just move it out, I just onboard it and it's the onboard is like less than 10 minutes.
The next question is, generally the people in the industry nowadays, that might have really made CNAP is part of, they use it as a part of the zero trust process.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
For example, like in this kind of posture control.
Yeah.
Is it competitive?
These skills not really competitor, is it?
It's kind of. posture control.
Yeah, a lot of people have posture control. I mean, Amazon does posture control sort of too, but.
Yeah.
So your question is what?
So basically, depending on what type of zero trust methodology you're using, you can use like this.
So what domain are you talking about?
Okay, so if you integrate any.
Oh, we can, I mean, there's some integrations in that, at least with the cloud security side for that. I mean, if you're talking about like ZTNA, like zero trust, zero. Yeah, that's actually in my list of questions I need to ask you, but we need to get through the questions after. We need to get that. Yeah, don't leave yet. We had another question over here. We had two questions over here.
Yeah. So the plugins you showed, is that for the going those, or is that for the CNAP product?
That's for the scanner piece, right?
There's multiple pieces of plugins. I'd have to go and look at this, on the left hand side of this map. So, reminds that acquisition, we migrate to the plugin family. Right? So, as you looked at it, I mean, so you're say 59,000 plugins. Well, 6 years when I started, we had 140,000 plugins. So that. So as we had acquisitions, we migrated them to plugin models. Some of them apply across multiple parts. In certain circumstances, you may want to use a Nessa scanner in your product as well. So multiple. See that or know that your snapshot. Snapshotting we're getting with those plugins. Yeah.
All right. So. We get the guy in the back and then we'll get to you, then we'll get to you. And the rest of you guys take them.
Yeah. That was the whole plan.
Yeah, I think that, but yeah, there's support for ticketing systems. You can also do it through Slack and. Yeah, let me see if I can show that real quick.
With Jira, ServiceNow, Confluence, Revenue.
Yeah, I mean, there is support for trouble tickets. I was gonna pull it up here real quick here. There it is right there. Jira and ServiceNow. Okay.
This is give you a chance to find you. Am I all that down?
No.
Sample, right? Facebook bonus, right?
Yeah.
Got involved in it.
Yeah.
Tell me how you're probably.
Okay, so several things that, this is actually a multi-product thing, which you're looking at, with Dependable, right? So number one is we will actually scan, your containers and stuff, and we'll look for like Log4j. If it just came out there, it's kind of like that plugin thing that we were talking about, right? It automatically just comes, we get that up to date. We also have the other product, which is also like if it's on-prem, which in this case it was. Part of it was on-prem, I think part of it was on, online, but we can use the Nessus scanner to be able to scan that also at the same time. And we do a lot more deep scans, and I can't give no, Jim could probably go a little bit more in detail on how that all works. Do you understand the question? He was just on the how to, like with Onus, they had Log4j, and all that, and would our product work together with them?
So it's all about detection remediation, right? I mean, so we're gonna alert you, again, how we prioritize those and give you the remediation, recommendations and instructions.
The way it's, they previously weren't patched. They patched, but they didn't realize that the notice exactly was already in there. So what I'm asking you is, how would you,
How would we prevent that we get it?
Yeah, the prevention part, yeah,
You know, it's one of those things, I mean, our controls are primarily preventive in nature. We're advising you how to shut your doors and close your windows. Once someone's in, you have a, persistent threat. Depending on the environment, you might be able to detect that with our active directory tool. But once someone's in, if it's an advanced persistent threat, they might be in there for years without knowing from some reason that for forensic activity.
yeah, I've been in several situations that are very similar to what you're talking about, where, they,
like about kids with the or anything like that, being able to service.
yeah, I mean, the only thing we're doing is like, we will detect the abnormal activity. We'll see what's going on. If they're doing like reconnaissance or doing anything outside of that. But it's not like when we see it, we're gonna prevent it. We're trying to provide that tool so you can actually see the full visibility of actually what's going on in your network. So like in this case, they actually had access and were modifying the S3 buckets at that time, right? And so their privileged accounts they were using, and that was coming from an SSL, and you can look at that and say, hey, wait a sec. The activity that I'm seeing is like, it's going through here. Now, that might not hit like the trusted or the, some of the toxic combinations, right? But it might hit some of the things that you have IAM policies for that we're looking at, critical information, like all of a sudden, you have a role or a user that's all of a sudden elevating his privileges and then also starting to get access to S3 bucket where you normally wouldn't get access to. But in general, though, ahead of time, you would be doing that ahead of time. During the problem, while it's happening, it's much more difficult to track. But ahead of time, you could take a look at all of these things, like least, and actually deploy least privilege roles and roles and user access, all that stuff ahead of time before that actually occurs. So we can go out there and scrape and see what's actually going on with your IAM policies or your IAM permissions, and then also with your workloads and your containers to prevent something like that from happening.
But I guess you are monitoring in the runtime, right?
We are monitoring, we're looking at behavior also.
And they're paying.
Yeah, we're not gonna do, it's kind of hard to do like remediation on behaviors. It's just that we're just notifying you on that, because behaviors is like, that's all, it's different.
Briefly, I think if you show them the anomaly detection piece there, right? So we wouldn't have prevented, because the patch was late, right? We wouldn't have prevented that. However, once that attacker started doing things, we would have started noticing anomalous behavior by the IAM component. So identity is an area we really focus. A lot of our competitors don't have the visibility, so we're providing that visibility and providing alerts. Hey, this user is doing something it's never done before, or it elevated the privileges and the keys. And there he doesn't have a lot of use, but those are the triggers where we're pointing our customers to things that they need to react to quickly.
Yeah, I don't have that because I turn mine off. Like after this thing, I'm gonna turn everything off just because, it's vulnerable, right? But in general, you would see a longer list of all these users who have access to, that may access some of that data you would normally do. Look, it's not the perfect system. We're trying to create it so it's easier to get to. That's what we're trying to do.
Well, part of
your question is, you gotta understand what the tool is, right? It's not gonna be like your CrowdStrike, you know, is out there, like what's happening now. It's not going to, it's not just confidence is something like that. Correctly, they were late in getting their patch. I think it was, they were, once they identified that they had the patch log 4J, then they're already in there. If you have something like 10 or millimeter, whatever, and you're actively patching, you're keeping up to date and understanding what your hyperburden versus solver, it will help to mitigate that as part of the data.
So.
Yeah.
So 0 days were after. Then we'll see, you now know about it, right? So if someone's doing something malicious and you're saying identities are the parameter, then you should be able to report on the identity if it's doing something. That's right.
But yeah, they didn't have until the it was just like
It's now their current tool. Yeah, that's probably, so I'm looking at capabilities. Right, but they should be able to.
I think too, the thing with your identity is it's not looking at the actual virtual machine, right? You're looking at the cloud trip that in order to look for an identity in terms of IAM stuff.
I mean, that's one way we're doing it, right? I mean, that's one way we're doing it. So
So your sources there. Right?
well, that's one of the sources. We're also looking at the the activity log. So to correlate all the other pieces together, right? You know, we'll still show you like, okay, yeah, these are areas that you need to take a look at. But the true value comes with the context, which comes out of your source, which comes out of your logs, and be able to pull out all that stuff together. That's the important part.
control.
Yeah, exactly.
Looking at IAM settings, each of them have capabilities. We're looking at your instances saying these have vulnerable items that can be detected. And then something comes into your environment from an anomaly perspective, we're saying this is going on. So, you know, I was last when here's what let's say 0 day. So people have a different opinion on this, but I now for every so is it about 0 days, but 10,000 already in your environment that isn't from the parent. Worry about the ones they don't know about, not the ones that they do know about. Where preventative controls like us, we're looking at it, showing you across the board. These are all your problems you gotta take care of. And, you know, one that sneaks into the side that starts to know what's going on. Where we focus a lot of our time.
Yeah, and even I even take a look at it as like 0 day is preventative maintenance. All right. I mean, that's kind of like what I look at. It's like you're just doing preventive maintenance on the stuff that you should already be doing, but you don't have the time and you don't have the visibility over the things that are going on. So that's all.
Understanding, you know, the risk of a 0 days that you can never mitigate your risk to 0. Right? As long as there's 0 days, then you can be attacked.
Yeah, I mean,
Your website.
yeah, that's right.
But how do you know they're attacked? And that's why I come to answer questions like you guys have all this great identity. So I just wanted to changes.
What-
And then-
Yeah, just keep in mind that the identity, if you don't do anything with the identity, you're open. You need to do something with the identity and make it, you know, go back to what's recommended by the well-architected diagram, you know, for AWS is like least privilege, you know, don't give them access to all the resources that are there if they don't need it. You know, and that's where the cloud trail comes on. We'll look at that long list and determine, oh, this user really doesn't need all this stuff. Like, I mean, I give myself admin access all the time, but it'll tell you, you have too much information. And it's like, and all I'm doing is spinning up different things. I'm not doing things in,
But to your point, like, in every book, you know, there's some person, you have to have multiple. So, we all, one of us, like, the only. We're one. Or proactive about it. You have to do the firing in public defense. Shit hits the fan. Because when firing, you won't look at it and say, fire out. see about this one. You know?
That's good.
So if I can put the tools in place that reduce the damage from fire, then I'm dealing with, you know, 9 fire.
Prevent the fire.
I might be dealing with kitchen.
Okay, we had a couple more. Well, he was gonna, he didn't, I've been waiting.
Ladies.
Did you? Okay. Well, I mean, anomalies have to occur, right? And sometimes it may take a while to determine whether or not this is actually, you know, you're looking at data that might be multiple areas, or the, you know, you can also specify, you know, these are like, for instance, you can go, you can actually go ahead and show you this piece, but you can actually go under just like critical data on this thing, and so you can take a look at and make a determination. Again, it's about hygiene. It's just like looking, figuring it out. What's, you know, knowing where your data is at, and we'll detect that. Some of that information is valuable to you, but then also like, you could be a user that is, you know, you're, you know, based on your privileges, that you're always accessing that data, you're not actually, you know, you're actually doing work, but something like me is actually going through and doing hacking type of tools like pen testing stuff, it's gonna detect that because that's not normal activity.
Can it detect like, let's say, like massive creation, deletion, transcription?
Yes, I can detect that. Well, I mean, it could be a vector. I mean, we're gonna tell you that these things are happening. It doesn't tell you that the attack occurred. It's gonna tell you that these things are happening.
Yeah, so Monica, if you think about it, like, for instance, if you're a user and you don't do mass creation or deletion, or you don't do encryption in your day-to-day, one day you do, right? We don't know if you should be doing it or not. We're just like notified, hey, Monica did something different today. Now it's up to you.
Say like how sensitive this, like how files would have to be encrypted.
It's,
Like,
yeah. If it's a different case, then we're gonna notify.
Your files every day, I think you're not supposed to.
And keep in mind, that's over a longer period though. Mine's only like 5 days. That's just nothing. But mine is set to record like 24 hours, which is really not a good indicator of whether or not this is a malicious activity, you know, for what I'm trying to do, right? And that's the thing. We've got other products that will do that, like ASM and stuff like that, that will show that, but that's not for this one. I mean, eventually we'll do that. Well, malware detection and also more stringent anomaly detection inside of that. Yeah, I can get back with you later.
Like, it's not just you using identities in a way that's not a regular access method.
Yeah.
It's also, what's the shape of your work? All of a sudden, are you starting to run these mining processes for Bitcoin or something? I mean,
Yeah.
it's pretty odd.
There's a lot more to it than just like I'm making it really simple. I mean, it gets more complicated than that, and you know, we can spend all day and do that. I know we got pizza, we can spend a little bit more time.
Service. You need to worry about.
All right, somebody else have questions? Yeah, it's just, it's like, it's, how can I say it?
Not paid your question.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Go ahead.
from this product, I see that you have a greater bit of visibility.
Mhm.
I think it answers the question about if we have a talent pool that we're still searching to get the right talent, this can help with alleviating some of that. Also helps with having a single point to go to get that information so we can see behaviors that are changing.
Yeah.
In our environment, so we can attack those 0 days, or we can attack the regular postures. One of the things that is still of a concern is that it appears that the tool goes out and it does it scans against the snapshots.
Mhm.
Does it store the snapshots
No,
locally, or it just scans against it?
just scans against it. Yeah.
Okay. So then,
Yeah, we keep it and then we use it and sell it to stuff. No, and we don't do that.
but overall, I think very good, thank you.
Yeah, no. That's a good point. We got to pay for storage and there's a cost associated with that.
Good, thank you.
All right. One last thing. You guys asked me a bunch of questions. Go ahead.
Can you talk about policy management? Do you have anything built-in policies on the mass that you, Azure policies?
We got the compliance one that's in there. Like we have like NIST, we have CIS, we have a bunch of other ones in there. Here, let me show you there. Yeah, we have PCI. Yeah, so
You can customize?
you can customize some of the policies. Yeah, it's a little bit more.
Compliance is policy.
Oh, I thought you said you could create your own.
Oh, yeah, you can create your own too. Like I've created some here. These are for like I'm an AWS Jams builder, so I created one. This actually is part of, the AWS Jams. So if you want to do a contest, we can do this, but we do these as like a Capital One prevention. These are just some of the things I can add in there. There's additional policies. Like here's, and I've got here's just ones that I created. All right.
Policy page, it's the next item up.
Oh, you're talking about these policies right here. Oh, yeah, you can add custom policies if you want. Okay, yeah, thank you. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, last thing here, real quick. All right. So I'm on the yeah.
Part of that, that's just. You said that that's the thing. That's the thing. Okay. But that's the thing that would tie into. Part of the business. On power, also. See, all of this very say what we're tax record from. Except if you blend it, and. How would you explain how you bring the bottom or being where all those things get tied together. No. Make a picture of all the whole district.
All right. Just real quick. This is not roadmap information. It's just stuff I like to collect. You don't have to give me this information, but I'm just going to go through this list. So one of the things that we want to understand is there a need for you guys, or maybe, if you have customers and stuff, like to utilize security lakes. And security lakes basically is throwing the data in there, normalizing it with OCS format, putting it in there, and then you can pull that back out. So it goes in the S3 bucket and you can pull it back out, reutilize it. So it acts more like a SIM. But there's a number of other vendors that are also doing this too. You might have CrowdStrike doing it. You might have Palo Alto. Some of the other companies are putting it into a data lake. The other thing that can be useful for it is in the area of patch management, right? So you can put it in there. You can pull that out and say, okay, this data is extremely important, or these vulnerabilities, we found these plugins need to be patched. We need to patch the system. So that gets sent out to your patch manager, or like the AWS patch manager. So these are some of the things that we're looking at, like security lakes. If you guys, I don't know if, come chat with me after. The other is AWS verified access. Verified access basically deals with ZTNA, right? So verified access, when you get access to it. And one of the things that we're looking at is possibly, if we find vulnerabilities in the system and they are considered critical, we will provide, things that we want to take a look at. Is it possible that you guys see a need to be able to stop the user from actually coming in, or block the user from verified access? All right, that's AWS's terms. App Fabric is just basically a fabric of within the cloud, and all these components, all these other SaaS providers are in the cloud, and they actually exchange data between each other. That's on top of AWS App Fabric. Let's see, Control Tower, or automated configurations. This is particular for newer customers, but if you're migrating or if you're moving things over, you guys utilize Control Tower to move that stuff over. And this is stuff I kind of collect information to, because I want to be able to convince our product management team that this is really important to have. So you can get with me later on this thing. Verify permissions. Are you guys familiar with some of this stuff? Yes, no, some of this stuff, all right, yeah, so this is all edge stuff sometimes, verify permissions, we'll talk about that, and then, I use, I use something else, I mean, to do this, but, SNS integration, event-based integration, I don't know if you guys use, that notification system to get that. Most people don't, but, that's, just something that's come up. So you can get with me later, you don't necessarily have to, you can send me, this is my, if you wanna, it's my QR code. Trust me, it's a good QR. And you don't have to, it just does my contact information, but you can get with me, just shoot me a note and just, we can talk a little bit later on what you guys are seeing today and provide me some of that information. It's useful for me because I have to justify product management to say, hey, you need to do this, other than just saying you need to do this. I gotta justify it. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much.